Welcome, sorry, welcome to the line change. In this video, we're going to be talking about some Rick Tocchet updates, and as you can tell by the title of this video, more Tocchet updates, more frustration for us Canuck fans, as Rick Tocchet still is not signed. Even through this weekend, there's been no progress made between the two sides. We are going to look over an article from our friends at Canucks Army, and it just provides a little bit of an update in regards to Rick Tocchet. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. And then after the article, I'll do my sponsor read, and then we'll discuss this update a little bit. So let's go ahead and dive right into the article. Excuse me. This is by Tyler Kuhl of Canucks Army. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. A wrinkle has risen in the negotiations between the Vancouver Canucks and their bench boss. On the latest episode of 32 Thoughts, the podcast, Sportsnet's Elliotte Friedman reported that the Canucks and Rick Tocchet met on Friday. However, no decision was made as of Sunday night. Canucks president Jim Rutherford told the media last week that the team wasn't going to pick up the option on Tocchet's contract. Instead, the team is looking to sign him to a new deal to keep him in town. According to Friedman, one of Tocchet's concerns about staying with the organization is the lack of a practice facility. Vancouver is the only team in the NHL without its own practice rink. I would understand that, Friedman said. I think if you're the one team that doesn't have one and the nights where your main rink is not available and you kind of have to go into a public rink, it's a little bit different. I could see why that would drive a coach crazy. Friedman noted that it isn't cheap to buy up land in the greater Vancouver area. If you follow real estate in Vancouver, it's not inexpensive. That is clearly, even though Rutherford had some pretty hilarious comments about what he would do to try and get it done. It's obvious that it's a bit of a thing. Rutherford mentioned last week that while discussions about a practice facility have been ongoing for decades, it could still be some time before a deal is finalized. I assure you, we're going to get this done, Rutherford, 76, said. Maybe long after I'm here, maybe long after I'm even on this earth, but it'll get done. The Stanley Cup winning executive pointed out what the team is looking for in terms of construction for its own facility. Rutherford mentioned that the team had talks with a few facilities already, but to no avail. We need 200,000 square feet that we can build on, and with the dressing room added to a rink somewhere, and then just use the ice. For different reasons, it didn't work out. During training camp prior to the 24-25 season, Tocchet spoke glowingly about the team being able to use 2 sheets of ice at the South Okanagan Event Center in Penticton, something that a few teams around the league have access to. All of this conversation comes as the PWHL recently announced its expansion to Vancouver, with the new franchise set to start play next season. Part of the deal with PNE, which includes the team playing at the renovated Pacific Coliseum, is that the Agrodome will undergo substantial upgrades, providing the new team with its own practice facility. This while the Canucks are going to be without their own training rink for the foreseeable future. The Canucks finished 5th in the Pacific Division this past season, missing the playoffs for the 4th time in 5 years. And then that's the article. So yeah, it looks like Rick Tocchet is unhappy that the Canucks don't have a practice facility. But before we get into the updates, and let me do my sponsor read, and then we'll dive right into it. Are you looking for an energy drink that is jitter-free, crash-free, no sugars, no artificial colors or dyes, and no calories? Then Uppbeat Energy is for you. With over 15 plus unique custom-made flavors, go ahead and get a starter sampler pack, which includes 3 different flavors. Use code TheLineChange to get 10% off your next purchase. Uppbeat Energy, your taste buds' favorite energy drink. All right, let's break down this article and talk about it. So, according to Elliotte Friedman, the lack of a practice facility is, I wouldn't say it's a key factor or a huge factor, but it is a factor in the negotiations. Tocchet's expressing his, he's basically expressing that it bothers him. And it's obviously, with the Canucks being the only NHL team without one, really makes the organization look pretty bad, considering they've been around for 50 plus years, and over those 50 plus years, they still don't have a practice facility. Not to mention, with the mention of the new PWHL franchise here in Vancouver, and the fact that within one day, the PWHL team has its own practice facility. So yeah, it's looking really bad on the organization. Excuse me. And of course, with this update on Rick Tocchet, and just hearing that they met on Friday and that no decision was made as of Sunday, it's a lot of Canuck fans are beginning to voice their frustration, myself included, as we figured this deal would have been, Jim and Patrick said at the end of season presser, literally 1 week ago, that they hoped Tocchet would have made his decision by the end of the week. Well, it is now the following week, the start of the following week, and no decision has been made. And as many of you may have heard earlier today, the Pittsburgh Penguins parted ways with Mike Sullivan. So that means Mike Sullivan is going to be available, and it makes you wonder what this means for the Vancouver Canucks. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, as I'm going to do a separate video on that. But as the title of this video says, more Tocchet updates, more frustration. And obviously, it's not just the lack of a practice facility that is weighing on Tocchet when it comes to these negotiations. It's also Quinn Hughes' future. He's not sure what Quinn's future is. We mentioned in a previous video that he doesn't want to sign a long-term deal and then have Quinn Hughes leave in 2 years. That's one factor in this. And I, not gonna lie, I don't blame Tocchet really all that much if that is, weighing on him, and if it's, if it has anything to do with whether or not he says yes to a deal. Now, we also know that it's being reported that there's roughly between 500 and 700K on the between the two sides. That's the difference between this new contract that he wants and the money that he wants. Both sides are at an impasse with that amount, and that is the difference. That amount is the difference between the two sides. It's a very eerie, similar situation to Tom Willander that you guys can check out in one of my previous videos when we talked about Willander and how it's 200K that separates the two sides. And all in all, as we mentioned in that video, this is a bad look for this organization. It makes Francesco Aquilini look like a cheap ass, and he's hurting this franchise by not wanting to spend money. And yet this team needs to spend money, especially to acquire a second line center, and to improve this team. Not to mention the announcement of the cap going up. I don't really like the excuse of not wanting to spend money when the salary cap is going up. On top of that, the coach's salary has nothing to do with the salary cap. So whatever you pay a coach doesn't apply to the salary cap. So I'm sorry, but you can't really use that excuse of not wanting to spend money and not paying a coach when the two things have nothing to do with salary cap has nothing to do with it. They're separate, as we mentioned in a previous video. That is the real head scratcher when it comes to Francesco Aquilini's thinking and reluctance to spend money. So, as I've mentioned a couple times in this video, another update but more frustration. let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of this new, if you want to call it, new update on Rick Tocchet. And go ahead and voice your own frustrations in the comment section down below on the fact that Tocchet hasn't signed yet. That's going to do it for this video. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content, as well as your Abbotsford Canucks content that I'm going to be doing during this playoff run, feel free to smash that subscribe button and also hit that little bell to stay notified every single time we upload a video. You can find us on social media on Twitter/X at LineChangeVan. You can find us on Instagram at The Line Change. And you can also find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change and you'll be able to find our Facebook page. If you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you do so, please rate and review, as it's greatly appreciated. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. As always, I'll see you guys in the next video.